Yo, if you blinked during Game 3 of these 2026 NBA Finals, you missed one of the wildest momentum shifts we've seen in a long time. The Knicks came into Madison Square Garden thinking they were about to put this series to bed. Instead, they got hit with a reality check that nobody saw coming. Let's set the scene real quick. New York was rolling. They had just swept Cleveland. They were in their first finals since 1999, and they had already stolen both games in San Antonio. 2-0 lead, home court back in their hands. The Garden was loud. The fans were already dreaming of a parade, and the Knicks looked like the team that couldn't lose. Then the Spurs showed up and said, "Not so fast." From the jump, you could feel something different. The Spurs came out aggressive. They weren't just playing to survive. They were playing like they belonged on this stage. Early in the first quarter, they built a quick double-digit lead, the same way they had done in the first two games. The Garden got a little quieter than usual. You could see the Knicks looking at each other like, "All right, let's settle down." But the Spurs kept coming, and then there was Wembanyama. Man, this kid was everywhere, blocking shots, altering everything at the rim, and when he got the ball on the perimeter, he was cooking. He had that smooth pull-up going, he was attacking closeouts, and every time he touched it, you felt like something special could happen. By halftime, he already had like 18 or 20 points, and the Spurs were feeling themselves. But here's the crazy part. It wasn't just Wemby scoring. He was finding guys, kick-out passes, hockey assists, setting up cutters. All of a sudden, the Spurs went from averaging 14 assists in the first two games to looking like a team that actually wanted to share the ball. 6 guys ended up in double figures. That doesn't happen by accident. Now let's talk about the Knicks and where things started falling apart. Jalen Brunson, who had been carrying this team all playoffs, had one of those nights where everything felt a little off. 5 turnovers. Some sloppy passes, some forced shots. You could see him trying to do too much at times. OG Anunoby was fighting, but even he couldn't get that usual rhythm going. And the role players, Mikal Bridges and Landry Shamet, were ice cold, just bricking shots. When your supporting cast goes quiet like that in the finals, it puts a crazy amount of pressure on your stars. Karl Anthony Towns? He was supposed to be the X factor after how he played in San Antonio. But Wembanyama was giving him problems all night. The kid was switching, contesting, making Towns work for everything. Cat finished with just 11 points, and the Knicks never really got that interior dominance they wanted. The second half was where it got really tense. The Knicks kept fighting back. That's what good teams do. They'd cut the lead to 4, then to 2. You could feel the Garden start to wake up every time they made a little run. Brunson would hit a tough floater, and Anunoby would get a steal and dunk, and suddenly it felt like New York was about to take control again. But every time they got close, the Spurs had an answer. And a lot of those answers were coming because of Wembanyama. There was one stretch in the third quarter where Wemby blocked a shot, grabbed the rebound, pushed it himself, and then kicked it out for a 3. The building went silent for a second. That's the kind of play that changes games. Not just the block, the fact that he turned defense into offense and got his teammates involved. The Knicks kept chasing. They'd get stops, they'd score, they'd cut it to one possession, and then something would go wrong. Another turnover. Another missed open look. Another time where Wembanyama just altered a shot enough to make it miss. It was like they were running in quicksand. They had the talent, they had the experience from the last month and a half of winning, but they just couldn't quite put it together for 4 straight quarters. And that's what makes this loss sting a little extra for New York. They didn't get out-talented. They got out-executed in key moments. The Spurs played with more joy, more freedom, and more connection. 28 assists on the night. That's a massive jump. They were moving the ball, cutting hard, and playing like a team that finally believed they could win this series. Wembanyama finished with 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Those numbers are already ridiculous for a 22-year-old in his first finals appearance. But the real story is what he did for everybody else. He made the game easier for his teammates. He drew so much attention that open shots started appearing for everybody else. And when the moment got big, he didn't shrink, he got louder. The final minutes were chaos. The Knicks made one last push. They cut it to 3, then 2. The crowd was on their feet, screaming, trying to will their team to take the lead. But every time New York got close, San Antonio had just enough left in the tank. A big Wemby rebound here, a clutch bucket there. And when the final buzzer sounded, it was Spurs 115, Knicks 111. The series is now 2-1. New York still has home court. They still have Game 4 at the Garden. But the vibe shifted. The Spurs just proved they can win in this building. They proved they can play with joy and still get stops when it matters. And Wembanyama just showed the entire league that he's not just a future star, he's already impacting finals games in ways that make you sit up and pay attention. So now the question becomes, how do the Knicks respond? Do they come out Wednesday night angry and locked in? ready to remind everybody why they were the team everybody was scared of? Or does this loss linger and give the Spurs even more confidence? One thing's for sure, this series just got way more interesting. Wembanyama and the Spurs aren't going quietly. And after what we saw in Game 3, you better believe the Knicks know they're in a real fight now. Game 4 is going to be electric. The Garden is going to be rocking. And both teams know exactly what's at stake. This is why we love the finals, man.